Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to Virtual Racing Network. Tonight, of course, we're here with the Racecore Online Racing League. This is the Racecore iRacing Drivers World Racing Series. We have another great race for you, and I don't even know if great can be the word that describes it. It is going to be a fantastic race, and even that won't classified. 31 drivers are here tonight, and we may have a few more popping in before it's all said and done. But before we get over to all the racing details and our national anthem and qualifying, which will be coming up next, we want to go through all the sponsors that make this race and this broadcast possible. Here on the racing side of things, we would not be here if it wasn't for the following partners. Those do include Global Building Contractors, Leo's Coney Island, Dan Butler Designs, and of course your presenting sponsor here for this series and tonight's race, that is iRacing Drivers World. Make sure you check out all of these great partners on their social media platforms and give them a big shout out for coming on board here for 2018 and this season. And of course on the broadcast side of things, the following partners make this broadcast possible here for 2018. Those include Northwest Racing Series. You can check out all of the coverage on Monday and Wednesday night from their Xfinity and Truck Series right here on Virtual Racing Network, and they are the official one-to-go sponsor here for tonight's race. Walls Beard Co. Beard Balm. Definitely check them out. They are the official starting grid sponsor for tonight's race. And of course, here in the month of November, when it's No Shave November, you got to take care of that beard, gentlemen. So make sure you head on over to wallsbeardco.com and get some of that all natural and organic product today. Ohio IndyCar League. If you're looking to get into some IndyCar racing, there is no better place to go than, of course, Ohio IndyCar League. If you want to get all the latest and greatest information on this league, head on over to Facebook and go to facebook.com/Ohio IndyCar League. SimSpeedShop.com, your one-stop shop for button boxes and e-brakes. If you're an iRacer, they are a must, as you can get a custom-made button box and, of course, those e-brakes for the rallycross racers with an ever-expanding list of iRacing, racing, or global, whatever they want to call it, iRacing rallycross tracks. As it did change here recently, you can do so as a must for all those drivers. And of course, iBog, iRacing Broadcast Overlay Graphics, your 7-race broadcast graphics source. Make sure you head on over to ibog.co if you're looking to get into broadcasting or just need some overlays for streaming here on iRacing. Jason Allison over at iBog is the best in the business, so head on over there and check them out and get started today. That being said, that will do it here for the sponsors for the series and here for this race. We do have some new features here we get to show off tonight, and those are, of course, built by Jason Allison over at iBog, so we'll be showing those off here. We currently have about 2 minutes, about 30 seconds till we get to the national anthem. We want to thank everybody for tuning in here tonight. Should be a great race. Looks like Jeff may be joining us a little bit later tonight. Again, we have currently 31 drivers here for this race at Daytona, Talladega Superspeedway. 2.65, technically 6.6, but we're going with 6.5 mile track. 4 turns here. A very hot night, but we'll go over that here in a minute, as we will be right back with qualifying after your national anthem.
We take you down onto the track for our opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Please remove your hats.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, we are back, and of course, there are drivers out on the track here. Obviously, nobody will be putting in a time just yet. They still have quite a bit of time to go out and get around this track. Well, give us just a minute here. We're going to go silent for a second, take care of one thing, and we will be right back. All right, we are back. Just had to take care of that one thing. Again, we'll be checking in on chat throughout the night as we are hopefully going to get some of this pixelation taken care of. We're trying a little something different here tonight, but we've kind of established, I think it's on the YouTube side of things, so not much we can do about it. But we are definitely going to do our best to hopefully eliminate as much as we can. But again, no times have officially come in. We're actually going to zoom out here just a little bit so you can get a different view here as we are going to go ahead and bring up your qualifying times on the right-hand side. Again, this is only the top 20 times here in qualifying. We just show off those top 20 times. There are actually 31 drivers here, though, that we're going to be watching for, so we'll go ahead and pull up your driver bar as well. Again, 31 drivers have made the trip here to this track at Talladega Superspeedway. Who will be on pole is the question. Obviously, you can see those little dashes there. Nobody has officially put in a time, as Scott Masick will be one of the first ones to do so. I expect them to be somewhere in the 50s. For at least their first lap anyway, as it is kind of their warm-up lap, and it's going to be Brett Mesrevy that puts it in first, 53.756. John Van Verellis is going to jump to the top, though, with a 53.738. That will put him at the top of the charts here so far in that number 78 Krispy Kreme Donuts machine. Scott Masick to third with a 53.772. Brandon Dorsett in currently now fifth place with a 53.999 as Chris Brown's going to take fourth with a 53.961. Again, a lot of times coming in. We'll go over at least the top 10 here, as you can see 11th through 20th on your screen, so we won't go over every single one of those. You can see your driver's name on the list if they are in the top 20. If they're not, they won't be there, but we'll try to go over some of those. Also, just to let everyone know, going into this race, Brian Jones, Brandon Young, Josh Coley, Craig Covington, and Alex Huffman will receive end-of-line penalties. So those drivers will not be qualifying here. They will be stuck at the rear of this field, which may not be a bad scenario, as we've seen some pretty impressive wrecks here in qualifying so far. So we'll see. Charles Hoffman to third place. Butch Frazier will take the pole so far with a 52.898. But I expect to see some more drivers come in. Dustin Covington with a 52.953 to sixth place. Brian Bizzle to 10th with a 52.981 in that number 24 Lowe's machine. Dan Butler currently 15th with a 53.525. He'll be putting in a new lap here this time by. And looks like we got Colton in chat with us. We got Mikey Neal with the 31 days that you have officially been a a subscriber, a member of the channel, as you have the new icon there, of course, indicating that you have officially been a member of the channel for at least 31 days. So awesome to see that. So that was something new we implemented there. But right now, Justin Starr currently in 17th with a 53.992 as he is coming up on the line to put in his next lap, and we'll see what it's going to be. And right there, it's going to be a 52.994 to put himself in 12th place. Tony Rice sitting back in 17th with a 53.519. He'll be putting in a lap here momentarily, and he is the only other driver that is out on the track right now. No other drivers are actually out on the track at this moment, and I just now saw that we do have Jeff with us. So, Jeff, welcome to the booth.
Hey, Charles, how's it going, man? Missed you guys. Glad to be here.
Well, definitely glad to have you back, and again, apologize for not noticing you were here a little sooner, as we were definitely having a blast here. We'll get rid of our qualifying. Well, I say we will. There we go. We will get rid of it now. But just in time for the race to actually start, as they are taking it to the grid now, and it's going to be an impressive grid to say the least. So if you are loaded in, you want to run through our top 16 drivers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see a couple new names here. If I mess them up, you can correct me. But starting on pole tonight, the 555 car, Butch Frazier. Outside row 1, we got the 00 Scott Masick. In row 2, we've got the 63 of Charles Hoffman and the 75 of Bill Edwards. In row 3, we got the 10 of Jason Covington and the 69 of Dustin Covington. In row 4, we've got the 1 of Chris Brown and the 23 of Raymond Yeager. In row 5, we've got the 5 of Brandon Dorsett, and rounding out your top 10 is a 24 of Brian Bazell.
In row 6 is going to be the 19 of Francois Peltier, and the outside is going to be the 99 of Justin Starr. Row 8 is going to be the 78 of John Van Varelis and the 7 of Brett Meservy. Row 9 is going to be the 64 of Tony Rice and the 2 of Jameer Muhammad. Row 10 is going to be the 8 of Mikey Neal and the 45 of Brian Jones. These guys not taking times. Row 11 is going to be the 33 of Josh Coley, who you are very familiar with, and the 9 of Brian Dorsey. Row 12 is going to be the 83 of Alex Huffman and the 30 of Mike Rigney. Row 13 is going to be the 91 of Jim Locking and the 6 of Matthew Ellis. Row 14 and 27 is going to be the 101 of David Gainforth and the 51 of Brandon Young. Row 15 is going to be the 31 of Scotty Zerk and the 50 of Sterling Smith. And rounding out row 16 here tonight is going to be the 96 of Craig Covington. That will do it for the Walls Beard Co. starting grid, as it is going to be a crazy race.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a full field out here. We got these Can-Am cars here at Talladega. So Talladega, that usually means we got room for 3 wide. Nice wide track, good smooth. I mean, we don't really have any bumps either. So a lot easier. A lot easier to get around the track here. A lot easier to run tight quarters. 3 wide. You got these K&N cars, man. They suck up so much better than even the trucks or the Xfinity cars. And then we got a full field. So I think this is going to be a fantastic race.
Yeah, definitely is going to be a race to remember. You know, this league always has a good car count, around 20 to 25. You throw a Daytona or Talladega in the mix, and everybody comes out of the woodwork here. And I thought we had 32, but it looks like one of the drivers did not start here tonight, and that was Bruce Clay, brand new driver, but he never did connect to the server. 31 drivers, still nothing to be disappointed at. The question is, will we have the big one? We saw it twice in practice, and I have a feeling we probably will see it sometime tonight.
You can just about count on it at Talladega. One of the only races I've ever seen that didn't have one was with this very crew here. I think it was in the Xfinity or the trucks. I can't even remember, but almost guaranteed to have a big one before the night's over.
Yeah, definitely. And they don't have any fast repairs, so if you get involved in it, it is going to hurt you. It may not take you completely out of the race, depending on how many people are involved, as there goes the green flag out, and we are racing for the first time here at Talladega Superspeedway. And our timing screen sorting itself out there as, again, not a real fast start, but that's Talladega for you. You don't get those super fast speeds. It's not about speed, or it is about speed, not so much acceleration. So it takes them a minute to get going. But here in a lap or so, they'll be up to speed, and we may see some three wide pretty quick.
Yeah, they actually pull horsepower out of these cars to slow them down here. And then, of course, they gear them for top speed, so not getting up to speed. So, a slow start, you can really kind of bottleneck a line there or find yourself getting shuffled out or anything like that. But there's not really an advantage here to getting a fast start. You jump out there ahead of everybody, and the draft is a great equalizer. They will catch up to you, but the problem is they will have more speed when they get to you.
Yeah, and we're already see that outside lane didn't get the start probably that some of these guys wanted. Especially when you look and you see like the 00 Scott Masick on the outside. I'm not sure who that is with them. The 75 of Bill Edwards. And, of course, the 01 is out there as well. But those guys are kind of by themselves. And these guys behind them need to get up to them if they want to push them. I did notice at the start there were a lot of people that didn't qualify that were on single file on the inside row. So that already gave that inside row a little bit momentum, or more momentum, just from the start of the gate or green flag. But still, I expect this outside row to come together pretty soon.
Well, I think you hit on something a little bit earlier that was a pretty valid point. There's no fast repairs in this league, so you got 65 laps ahead of you. How hard do you want to race right now? Because we know the big one's inevitable when we start getting bumper to bumper and all that stuff. So, are you in a hurry to get up front right now? Probably not. So keep your car in one piece. Maybe we don't need to race hard. I don't see any real side drafting going on out there, aggressive moves. So I think the general consensus here amongst these drivers right now is let's give each other a lot of space and choose some of these laps away before we start racing hard and see if we can't all have our cars in one piece when we get there.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, unless it changes here at the line, as of that last lap, Matthew Ellis in the 6 machine was our fastest driver out on the track. He's back in 21st right now. That shows you that just being up front doesn't mean you're the fastest lap out there, the way this draft works. We'll see if that changes as they come across the line, and this time it's Brett Meservy in the 7 who's actually back in 13th place. So the front car's not the fastest car here at Talladega.
No, most of the time it's the guy that's closing the gap. Again, that draft we talked about, when you get sucked up to those cars in front of you, you're picking up enough speed that you're actually going a little bit faster than those cars in front of you. So, we've seen some leagues here. We've called a few where they've got a bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. And, there's a strategy behind that. And you go out and you figure out what's the absolute biggest gap that I can get and still suck up with that draft. Time it so I've got that gap at the start-finish line, and then I'll let the draft suck me up. So you'll have guys, wherever you see gaps, and then you see guys closing it down if they choose to. If they choose to keep that gap, that's not going to happen, obviously. But, as that gap closes up, those guys are turning faster laps than everybody else. So fastest laps really don't mean a lot here at these super speedways because it can happen anywhere in the field by anybody, and it's not an indication of speed or tire wear or anything like that.
It definitely is. As not sure why that name is highlighted orange there, but we do have our top 3 back here so you can see. And second in place, you notice there's not much gap between our first and second here between Frazier and Masick. There is no time. Now there's a time there. There for a split second, there was no gap between them showing in the top 3 because there was no gap. They were literally side by side. Right now they're 0.05 seconds behind each other, now .099. So they are very close together. No surprise. That's kind of what you expect here at a super speedway like this. But Scott Masick in that 00, we don't always talk about him, but he's definitely shining here at Talladega so far.
Yeah, we had a real power move there by the 00. The one, I think it was a 75 at one point. Those guys got bumper to bumper on the outside, and they drove all three cars clear of the 555 of Butch Frazier there on the inside, and were able to clear them and bring them down. So looked like those guys were actually working together on that, because to clear that third car requires some radio communication. So something to keep an eye on. Now, I see that 75 jump back out to the outside row. So if these guys are trying to work together, and I suspect they are, they've got control of both rows right now.
Yeah, they definitely do. And it'll be interesting to see who all starts working together, as we do have access to that here, as we can see the kind of team channels. If we, you go to talk about Covington Motorsports here for a minute, that group has really grown. I remember when we started here, there was probably, 2 or 3 drivers in there. There's upwards of 6 or 7 now that are in that group. So 6 or 7 drivers, that's a pretty stout group of guys when you're running a super speedway like this, that you have that little bit of an advantage if you can get together over maybe a 2 or 3 car team.
Absolutely. Teamwork. At least at super speedways, teamwork makes the dream work, right? Knowing that you got guys that are committed to working with you, and yeah, it's huge at a super speedway, rather than wondering how long that guy that you're working with is going to stick it out, and when he's going to kind of just leave you high and dry. So running with having teammates here, obviously these guys can't look at TeamSpeak like we can and see who's grouped up and who's talking to each other on the radios there, but those guys working together in those rooms, and I think there's about 3 or 4 pretty good-sized rooms in here tonight that are doing that.
Oh, and the 63 goes around, where you're talking about the leader goes around and caution is out on lap number 8.
Yeah, it looked like we just didn't have somebody clear there.
I believe that would be correct, as we're having, there we go. We'll go back and take a look, and I think you're correct. It looked like the one got to the back bumper of the 63.
Well, I think actually the 63 tried to come down, and he just wasn't clear of the 00. And so
yeah, there you go.
He actually turned down across the 00's nose. Maybe he was clear when he started heading down, but Scott Masick was not clear when he got there. And,
yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, around he went.
And I thought I saw the one. I just got the wrong car number there. But, yeah, you were correct. So that would be Charles Hoffman coming down. Thought he was clear. And like you said, probably was clear. And that's a point we'll bring up real fast while we're here talking about it. Under caution for the first time, as we'll wait to see who all comes down pit road, if anybody at all. That is one big issue that a lot of people are complaining, I guess you could say, with iRacing. As great as the service is, it's not a real spotter, and he could have been in the middle of saying clear, and the problem is they say it 3 or 4 times as they just go clear, clear over and over again, and by the time he says he's done and he starts not clear, well, you done listen to his first command and they're going down the track. So definitely one minor little flaw there is if we had real spotters would be a lot better.
Yeah, super speedway racing, that spotter's not really, he doesn't keep up. Whether you're clear or not clear can change so fast, and it's so hard for that computerized spotter to keep up. It's hard for a real spotter to keep up. And you got to kind of be aware of that when you're out there driving. If you're going to cut a real close space and you're not actually pulling away from somebody, and you're moving on the first, the instant you hear clear, and I mean, hard to explain, but you got to kind of watch your mirrors a little bit. You got to watch in front of you, and you got to just figure out somebody get closer or farther away and listen to the spotter at the same time. And, early in a race like this, I think a lot of times you played a little bit more on the safe side, and late in the race you take a few more chances.
Yeah, you do. As everyone's coming down pit road, I was wondering if they were going to come down. Tires, obviously, we know, are not a huge factor at a super speedway, although, you like some new tires here and there. But 8 laps on those, and everyone is coming down pit road to get those fresh tires and obviously fuel as well. However, I will point out here that other than Brian Jones, who did not come down pit road, Bill Edwards, Butch Frazier, Francois Peltier, if we'll get it right, and Jason Covington, as well as John Van Vreelis, and back in the field, Dustin Covington. Those drivers only took 2 tires in fuel. They did not take 4 tires, which I don't think is going to hurt them too bad right now.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks where 2 tires, especially this early in the run's not gonna hurt you at all. It's you know, if it's one of those where, depending on where I'm at, if I think I can get some track position and get up front, sure, I'll take 2 tires. If I'm riding around in the back and know that time gain's just going to put me in the middle of the back, then I'll take 4 tires.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm kind of torn with a track like this, to where, you know, especially with this many cars, do you want to get that track position? To me, it's kind of a mixed emotion. It's almost like just throwing some options in a bag and pulling one out. Do you go for the track position to get up front where everybody is trying to get to you, or do you go ahead and take those 2 tires and fuel and maybe even, kind of sandbag it a little bit on pit road and hang further back in the field to where you have time to avoid a big wreck? I think, and we'll get your thoughts on this, the worst place you can be, especially with 31 drivers here early in a race, even worse late in the race, is kind of in the middle of this field where you really don't have much time to react to anything.
Yeah, I got to agree. That's the last place I want to be, is in the middle. Unfortunately, if you're coming from the back to the front, you got to go through the middle to get there. In the front is usually where I like to be, if I can. And but it really depends on who's up there. If I'm up front and guys aren't driving as straight as I'd like, and it's early enough in the race, I will absolutely drop to the back. I think more than anything, it's about finding guys to run around that you're comfortable with. If you don't like what's going on where you're racing, get out of there. Because there's no time to react here if somebody wrecks in front of you, or if they're bobbling, weaving, can't hold a straight line, if they can't stay off your bumper and they're hitting you in the corner or hitting a guy in front of you in the corner. Doesn't matter. You don't have enough time to react and get out of the way when you're going 200 miles an hour, 190, whatever we're doing here. So that's why the middle's bad, is when these guys start getting aggressive up front, it collects you. You can't get out of the way. And then maybe in the middle, you don't normally have as good a drivers as you got up front. And then you got the other crew that goes to the back and just hangs out and waits, and maybe even puts a little gap there between them and the pack, so they've got more than enough ability to avoid it. And usually it's a pack of guys that'll run with each other that like to do that. But if the race goes green, you're in the back, and you got to get to the front. When you do it, you still got to go through the middle. So, all you do is kind of delay the inevitable at the back, as far as you still got to get through the middle to get up to the front.
And avoiding the big one is not as easy as you think. You stay in the back, you get up the front. It's not as easy. This track is very weird. From what I've ever noticed watching real races here on iRacing, they're about the same. Depending on where the wreck happens. If it's on the backstretch, you have a little bit more freedom there. If it happens in one of the corners, as banked as this track is, you would think everything would scoot to the bottom. However, with all the forward momentum these cars have, usually it shoots up the track into the outside wall and then sweeps down the track. And depending on if there's anybody down there when they come back down the track, you could collect those cars and then shoot them up into the wall because of their forward momentum that they have. So, long story short, depending on where the wreck happens, there's absolutely no place to go. You're pretty much out of luck if it happens in a corner, unless you take it to the grass and get extremely lucky. So, best case scenario, you have 2 hopes when you come to Daytona or Talladega, a track like this. Is one, your hope is to be sitting in victory lane, and your other hope is to not being involved in the big one. And if you can't do that second one, you definitely ain't going to be doing the first one.
Yeah, I think to your point, there's so many cars. We talk about the big ones; they collect everybody. It's like a bunch of pinballs out there. Yeah, you got cars hitting each other on the bottom, shooting the one car up the track, another track self-cleaning. If you're in the middle of turning a corner, it quits turning, and it'll shoot up into the wall. So yeah, to avoid that, the only way you can really avoid it is be far enough back to brake to come to dang near a complete stop before you get to the mayhem. You're not gonna oftentimes you just driving through it's kind of a crapshoot. So I'd rather either be ahead of it up front, right in the front, you're ahead of it. Or far enough in the back to where hopefully I can come to a complete stop or get slow enough to make some evasive moves to miss it all.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And good news is we are about to go racing here, as we'll go ahead and pull up our track facts real quick here, as it is Talladega Superspeedway. And we didn't get to mention this earlier, but the air temp is 83 with 5-mile-per-hour winds out of the east. But this track temp is 110 degrees. It is a nice and toasty little racing surface.
Yeah, now the two tires, honestly, I got a little late, wasn't aware of that, but, we got afternoon heat. As this thing starts heating up and those tires get older, it can get hard to make evasive maneuvers out there. You can still get it around fast, but those evasive maneuvers can be tough.
It can indeed, and we forgot to go back to live. I do apologize for that, as I thought we were, so that was on my bad. We'll put the top 3 back up on the chart, as the green flag is out, and they're spread out here quite a bit. That one's on me, a rookie mistake there.
I hate to tell you, but you weren't the only one. I still was delayed from a couple looks at that replay, but look at that. We got some 3 wide, and that did not last long at all. 2 cars get up into the wall. We got Krispy Kremes all over the track.
We do indeed, as we're trying to catch up to them here, as they are falling through the track. So let's go back, as we just got back to live, let's go back and take another look at it. What happened to Krispy Kreme, as he already had some damage here too.
Yeah, running that wall in that third row can be a little bit nerve-wracking, and I'm not sure what the car number of that blue and white car looked to me like. I
believe that's Raymond Yeager.
A little bit. Got a little nervous.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, there's the 3 wide you were talking about, and that's Raymond Yeager on the outside. And those two get together, and both of them going for a little bit of a spin, but I do believe Krispy Kreme 87 of John Van Rellis got the worst end of the deal there.
Yeah, you always hate to see the Krispy Kremes go out of the race early. You'd like to have them stick around for a while.
Yeah, you definitely would. If I don't lose my voice yet, we're doing our best here. But we are under caution once again here, and we'll see. 5 laps? I don't know if anybody's coming down after this one, but Jason Covington, it's not Jason Covington. It is one of the Covingtons. Not sure which one it is. There's a few of them out here, but it's C. Covington. So I believe that's Craig Covington has the fastest lap on lap 7. But nobody else able to top that as we're on lap 14. But it is going to be kind of hard if you're under caution, of course. But I don't think that's going to stand. I think we'll see a faster lap once we get some green flag racing.
Yeah, I've gone back and looked at replay now a couple times, and I think the 23 could have given John Van Verlis a little bit more room there, but looked like John Van Verlis moved a little bit too. So hard to point the finger at anyone there. I think that's just 3 wide racing, and if you're going to do 3 wide in the corner, you all better know where you need to be and keep it there. And I think that was just a case of nobody really knowing how much real estate they had there.
Yeah, and that is one downside to 3 wide, is knowing where everyone is. It's so hard, as you have to be very good at situational awareness. You have to know where everybody is, and even sometimes, excuse me, you do, and it just doesn't work out. I mean, again, there's 3 of you, and we've seen actually 4 wide in practice, but when you go 3 wide, it requires everybody to be on their A game, and obviously they just weren't quite there that time. But I think these guys, they're good enough drivers. I think they can do it here later on tonight, and we'll probably see it at least for the win.
Oh, I'm sure we'll see some 3 wide. I think maybe that was just a little bit by surprise. We weren't having cars drafting there. We actually just had two solo cars side by side there, 3 wide. So I think maybe not sure which one. One of those drivers was probably a little unprepared for that. And, we get later in the race and it's go time and these guys get the line sucked up and start running side by side there. That third line, that'll be a whole different story there. It'll be organized and they'll kind of be definitive lines, marks, grooves that guys are trying to follow. There, I think it was just kind of catching them off guard.
Yeah, and that's like you've mentioned before. We'll bring it up again here. When it comes to this particular track compared to like Daytona where it's the super speedway, there are really wide lanes here. As you can see there, one car doesn't even fill up the lane. So not only are the lanes wide here, the car doesn't actually fill up the entire lane. So that does give you a little bit more wiggle room on each side of your car. So 3 wide, it can easily be done here and fairly safely, compared to like Daytona where the lanes are smaller, the track's not as wide. It gets really sketchy and scary there at Daytona, but here at Talladega, you can get away with it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, later stages of the races, a lot of times we'll get our cars down a lot closer to somebody's door handle. That's what I mean by not being really ready for it. So a lot of times guys will be driving those cars, especially early when we're not really intense, and they'll say, okay, if we're going to go 3 wide, then, the dotted lines, here's my lane, there's your lane, here's mine. And while other guys will usually look at maybe dark lines or seams on the track that are a little bit closer together where the second lane might be straddling that white line and the third lane might just barely be touching the outer white line and say those are the lanes. And, if you're not on the same page, then what happens there is what we saw.
Yeah, it definitely is. And make sure we're back up to live, and we are indeed, as Butch Frazier is your race leader. We'll go ahead and pull that driver bar up. He's back where he started. He started first, and he's been up to first, of course. He has been in and out. He is in first right now, and he has actually led 5 laps. He's actually tied for the most laps led here with Scott Masick and Bill Edwards with 4. Brian Jones with 1, as he obviously stayed out and didn't pit under caution to lead that lap. But just about an even amount of laps between everybody here so far.
Yeah, and you actually, looking down there at the Covington Motorsports, looks like they're kind of congregating at the front here. You've got Butch Frazier down there in that room, so I assume he's part of that team. Jason Covington, Francois Pelletier, or Frenchie, as I believe they named him down there in the TeamSpeak channel. So those are your top 3 drivers right now, or 3 are your top 3, or 3 of the top 4 drivers actually. And you go back one, you got Bill Edwards there, who's not part of that group. Right behind him, you got Dustin Covington. So Brandon Dorsett also a part of that group. So we got, I think, 6 out of those top 8 cars, or 5 out of the top 7, something like that. All those guys on the same team working together up front there. So we've got one team kind of controlling the front of this race right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you'd like to do as a team, is control the front of this field. We talked about running single file, controlling a lane is one thing, but if you can control the inside and the outside, that's even better, as they are just about ready to get the green. They get a huge jump here as they spread out. There is the green flag out, though, so we'll go ahead and put your top 3 back on there. As right now, it is, of course, the Butch Frazier that leads them, and kind of really got spread out there. Your front 3 got a nice little jump, but like you said, the bigger jump you get, the harder it's going to be hold that lead when they do catch you.
Yeah, of the top 8 cars, only the one car, Chris Brown, is not a friendly. The rest of those, re-looking, I believe 7 out of those 8 cars are with one team. Yeah. So, be interested to see if Chris Brown has any friends up there in that one car.
Yeah, it definitely will be very interesting, as, again, we were watching him there, and he'll have to work extra hard if he doesn't have any teammates, because, people will work with you, but obviously your teammates are going to work with you first, and if you don't have any up there and you have 3 or 4 teammates around, you're going to be kind of the third wheel, per se, and they're not going to want to work with you. But, if you're good friends, maybe you can get them to work with you anyway. We'll see how that works out. As they're side by side, it's actually Chris Brown on the outside now.
Yeah, well, watch for Dustin Covington there in the 69, and then 24, Bryson Bazell. I would imagine they're going to take him 3 wide and leave him high and dry first chance they get, whether they go outside or inside. Looked like they were going to do it once about a lap ago, but Chris Brown did a good job of letting it drift up the track to kind of block that a little bit. But Jason Covington stayed glued to Dustin Covington's bumper. He was ready to move with him.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see if he does. And that makes, I believe, the third Covington that's in here. Craig Covington, Dustin Covington, and Jason Covington, obviously part of Covington Motorsports. So I'm curious what the relation is between those, if it's 3 brothers, maybe a father and 2 sons, what that relationship is. But right there, that is going to be a very tight-knit group. You almost per se, even if you're on a team, if you have family that's on that team, I almost want to say that that family is going to come first when it comes to helping out your teammates. Whether that's the case here or not, we'll see if Craig can get up there, as he's back in 25th right now. But does that to make that a little bit more than just a team bond?
Never raced with my brother. I can't tell you. I think there's always cliques within a team, but at the end of the day, I think most of the guys, it's just kind of a team comes first, right? I'd like to win, but if I can't win, then I'll make sure a teammate does, type thing. So right now, I think what's interesting there is watching Bill Edwards in that 75 try to get some traction. I saw him. He tried to make it 3 wide. Nobody went. We got a car down on the apron, so I'm left to only assume that car is going to the back. Didn't like what was going on up front. Maybe a little too dicey for him. And we got 3 wide now, so Chris Brown got hung out. We got the Covingtons taking it to the top row to leave Chris Brown there as the 5 tries to suck up to his bumper, though. Brandon Dorsett, who I believe is also part of that team, so a little surprised that he's sticking with the 1 car and not getting up there, but we got all kinds of lines going now.
And we got some below the yellow line, some on top of it. And that was Brett Meservy in the 7 that was actually pushing that 5 for a while. But he has since got down to the bottom lane. And that third lane somewhat fizzled out. But the 6 of Matthew Ellis, he has not yet decided he wanted to get into the bottom row or merge in with the top row to make it 2 again. So they are going to continue 3 wide, as I believe that's Bill Edwards. It is Bill Edwards, Chris Brown, and Matthew Ellis leading the charge in that middle row. The question is, will anyone get up there? And we will go, because I know Mike Neal's out there. His son obviously racing here. Mikey Neal is back in 20th right now, running the top side all by himself. So this back half of the field not too bunched together, as Chris Brown does take second place. Bill Edwards will take first here as they work that inside the lane, and now it's be turned back into 2.
Yeah, reading that question from and maybe I'm a little bit behind here, but from Mike there in chat asking about Mikey not having teammates. I guess I thought he had some teammates here, but I'm not sure what his strategy is. Looks like he's just kind of hanging out there at the back of this lead pack. Doesn't look like he's done a whole lot of work trying to get up front yet.
Yeah,
but Mikey Neal's a good enough driver and knows how to run these super speedways. He's the kind of guy that will make friends very easily if he tries to come through this field.
Yeah, and he definitely has a strategy here. And based on practice, I can see why he's staying a little further back. As early in practice, we had 2 big ones, one fairly big. We actually had a big one earlier that when there was, I believe, 30 some odd drivers out here at the time for that pit party they did, and about 26 of those were involved in a wreck. So that was a huge one during practice. We haven't seen that so far. But hanging back there, giving yourself that little bit of a room is what he's probably doing right now. Teammates or no teammates, he wants to be in a safe spot. He's probably pretty safe back there in 19th. But the question is, when will that big one happen?
Well, looks like Bill Edwards and Chris Brown finally hooked up together. They were the odd men out there in that Team Covington sandwich up front there. But after all those lines 3 and 4 wide and guys driving on the apron and all the dust settled, those 2 were next to each other, able to drive it up front on the outside line, and Bill Edwards able to pull down and now lead that inside line, and Chris Brown got control of the outside line. So Team Covington still got a lot of drivers up front, but not controlling either line anymore.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll change here as we are 24 laps into this 65-lap race. And, of course, with the new feature up there on the thing, you can see how many lead changes we've had without us having to pull it up. There are 10 different lead changes so far in this race, and I expect that to be even more by the time this is over. I believe last time we came here to Talladega with Racecore, we had upwards of like 30, almost 40 different lead changes. I expect that number at least 30, probably more, just depending on if we have people stay out during cautions or just how badly these guys swap out the lead.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of lead changes yet. Right now, we still got, we talked about that pack falling back. That's exactly what we've got. We've got a pack of drivers just riding around in the back of this thing. We got some guys that are just kind of hanging out the back of this front pack. A lot of guys haven't even really started trying yet. They're just trying to hang on, keep the car in one piece and in position. I think when we get to about 20 to go, another 15 or 20 laps into this race, you're going to see a lot of more lead changes, a lot of drivers working a lot harder, and those two lines going back and forth, maybe even three lines.
And there makes the 11th lead change as Chris Brown leads his first lap here tonight as he got a good push from the 6 of Matthew Ellis and the 5 of Brandon Dorsett and a few more drivers back there. I believe the 24 giving him a push as well of Brian Bizzle. So right now, that outside line, I don't know if I'd say they're perfectly come together, but they definitely have some strength. They have 5 cars, so they do have some momentum, just not quite enough, I don't think, to officially get that one in front of the 75 with Bill Edwards right now.
I think they got enough out there if they wanted to suck it up and go for it, but I'm not sure they're all committed to working with each other yet. I keep watching the 5 there of Brian Bizzell, or not Brian Bizzell, I'm sorry.
Josh Coley gets turned around.
Not sure who that was.
Josh Coley. You can't read the number anymore as he's upside down, spinning on his lid, but he manages to get it back on the wheels. Let's go back and take a look as he got turned very quickly. Josh Coley, I'm not sure, may have been Brett Meservy that had a hand in this, or it could have been that he came up. We're about to find out as we're watching the replay.
Yeah, we had a little 3-wide situation there, and I think this is real similar to the previous situation where you kind of had that outside line was merging into a second line up front. They were split a little wider in the rear, and I think maybe Messervy was just kind of following that line in front of him and driving it down a little bit, and Josh Coley there being in the middle maybe should have considered getting down a little bit lower too. So, another situation of being 3-wide without a 3-wide, well-defined 3-wide line there. So, this driver's again not knowing whose real estate is whose.
Yeah, they definitely are. It's just just a product of tough racing. Nobody really at fault. So it is what it is. It happens sometimes. As unfortunately for Josh Coley, he's going to be on pit road for quite some time with no fast repair, as that car went airborne really high, hit the fence, hit the ground, and almost couldn't tell what number he was before it was all said and done. I expect everyone to come down pit road here as they had 19 laps on there. So we're going to step away to a quick commercial break. We'll let you know what happens on pit road, and we will be right back.
I spent my whole life chained to the wall. There's nothing you can do, and I'm gonna run all over you. It's too late to try, there's nothing you can do. I'm gonna run all over you. I'm looking for new blood, and nothing's gonna stop me now. Yeah, I'm looking for new blood, and nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna stop me. Looking for new blood.
All right, we are back. Hopefully that got sorted out here as we are back racing once again. Let us know if we have game volume. Hopefully it's back up. We'll do some cranking up to it there just a little bit, as hopefully we do have lots of game volume for you here, and you can hear me over the cars. Of course, it will get quiet sometimes when they're further away from the camera, but hopefully loud enough for you to be able to hear it. As Francois Peltier does have the race lead at the moment. Brandon Dortet sitting in second place and putting together a fantastic run. And we get confirmation. We do hear it. So Jeff giving us that confirmation. So I'm not sure what happened there, but we did lose sound, but we have it back now, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there either, but they were correct. I went and listened during that break there, and great job fixing it there, Charles.
Well, had to put some gain into it, but we got it working, and that's what matters. As they are back to racing here, so we're going to go ahead and put that top three back up on the top here, as it is again Francois Peltier that's out front, Brandon Dorset and Dustin Covington in third place. Butch Frazier, our pole sitter here, sitting in fourth. He's been doing really good. He's been up front pretty much all night long so far.
Yeah, well, most of Team Covington's been up front. Chris Brown and Bill Edwards, not part of Team Covington, kind of been really the only guys running up front for the most part of the night that haven't been a part of Covington Motorsports. So, and if you look there at that outside line getting back together, here's the two outsiders getting things ready to go on the outside line again.
It definitely is, and I've noticed here, we'll check back a little further in this field to Mikey Neal. He is actually in 16th, so he went from about 20th to 16th. He's slowly but surely creeping up in this field a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm going back to the front as there. I thought we were about to go 3 wide again, but they changed their mind on that and decided to go back to 2 wide.
Yeah, I suspect if Mikey Neal has decided to move on up to 16th, he's probably going to commit to getting up to the front. Would be a guess there. I don't think 16th feels any safer than 8th at this point.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't.
Yeah, we got an outside line starting to form up here just a little bit. We've got Dustin Covington, Covington Motorsports, up there covered up for the team. So now Chris Brown and Bill Edwards going to be stuck there for a little bit. So let's see if they take it 3 wide here and try to bust up this Covington blockade up there. Yeah,
and we'll definitely be watching to see if they do. I don't know. It's so, these guys are almost unpredictable. You never know if they're going to go 2 wide, if they're going to take it 3 wide. And just when you think they're not going to, they've settled out, then they go 3 wide on you. So you just never can predict what is going to happen here with this group of drivers. As I do want to point out, we're on lap 35 of 65, fixing to be lap 36. So right there, we officially have 30 laps left to go in this race. So this race is actually over halfway done.
Yeah, and we usually talk about go time with maybe 30 or so or 20 or so to go, but with Team Covington having so many drivers clogging up the front there, if you're a driver a little bit further back there and you realize how many Covington drivers are up front, you're going to know it's going to take a little longer to get up front. So going to be a little bit harder. Go time may start a little bit early here. So with 29, 30 laps to go, let's see if we start seeing some of these guys get a little aggressive further back, getting that outer line going, getting it sucked up, maybe even a third line.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking for that as well. And so far, I want to point out a little bit further back here. You have that front group back there with Dustin Covington, your current leader now, who's led 2 laps. Bill Edwards, Chris Brown, Sterling Smith, Francois Peltier, Scott Masick, those guys. And then you go all the way back here, and the rest of these guys really just kind of scattered out. They haven't really grouped a whole lot, and I'm wondering if it's just a product of not wanting to. I don't think it's that they can't. I think these guys are just sitting back here still trying to wait, because if I'm them, knowing that we are 37 laps into this race and we have not seen a big caution, I almost am more scared now of getting one than I was earlier. Once you get that big one out of the way, it's okay, but that you haven't seen one would scare me to death right now.
3 wide in the back. We are coming forward there. There's a blue and red car. I can't see who it is. Might be Mikey Neal there that was 3 wide there for a little bit, running that outside. Not sure. Red, white, and blue car, darker blue.
It is indeed Mikey Neal in that 8 car.
It's settled back down, but that should be a pretty good indication that there's a couple of these guys that have decided it's time to move up. We're getting 3 wide there in the back.
Yeah, Mikey Neal is tired of hanging around in the back with less than 30 laps to go. He wants to get to the front. And speaking of the front 2 have actually pulled away from the rest of this pack, which is not necessarily a good thing, as we've established already. So the question is, how quickly will they catch them? As there they have pretty much already done it. And it looks like that 69 is going to go out there, and we may have a new leader here of Dustin Covington again momentarily.
Yeah, that's the problem with getting that gap, is you allow that third place. Oh, there we go. The first car went.
Oh, and they come back up as we talk.
Oh, there's your big one. Oh, man.
Oh, and Mikey doesn't avoid it either. He almost did. He goes upside down. Let's go back and take a look.
Looks like it started there with Bill Edwards and our other front car there. And one car just got turned there just a little bit, and it was all over.
And that's what we talked about a little bit earlier, is this started down low. It went up the track and then came back down the track, and that is when it collected even more cars. As we're watching the replay right there, a little bumper hook from the 50 to the 75. They go down, come back up, and then this is what gets Mikey Neal right there, the 50 sweeping back down the track and collects Mikey Neal. And all that time spent trying to work his way through the field and ends up getting caught up into the wreck anyway.
Well, that's the problem with being in the middle of the pack. You just get that many more people in front of you that can wreck, and you just still don't have time to avoid them. There's no time to react to that when you're back there where Mikey was, or a couple of the other drivers, and just that many more cars in front of you to get in trouble. So. Unfortunately, though, when you start at the back, you got to come through that middle, and everybody's got their preferences, but mine's to be up front, and if that doesn't work, I'm in the back too. So that middle's a dangerous place, man.
Yeah, and again, we started with 31 drivers here tonight. We are currently sitting at 21 on the track, so 10 drivers are either on pit road or out of this race. And I expect people to come down here. But just to update real quick here, Brandon Young on pit road. Actually, he's coming out of pit road now. Francois Peltier is on pit road getting damage repaired. Justin Spear on pit road. Mikey Neal on pit road. Matthew Ellis out. Sterling Smith on pit road. Charles Hoffman, Brett Meservy out of the race. Josh Coley's been on pit road for 17 minutes. Raymond Yeager and John Van Rellis out of the race. And everyone is coming down pit road, so quite a few drivers out and quite a few drivers on pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a little devastating, but I knew it was going to happen. I mean, it's just a matter of time. Things were starting to ramp up here a little bit, and that's what happens. And we'll see how this cycles out. But we've got one team that's really kind of got control of the front of this packing, and I would expect to see more of it, because you got to work that much harder to get to the front and take that many more chances.
Yeah, and probably based on laps, we should get the green flag somewhere around the 20 to go mark. It may be about 21 to go when we get it. But regardless, that 20 to go is where we indicate it's really go time. But at least 10 to go is where it is, let's do this. That's almost that point of no return. You have to get to the front quickly. But we've said it before, and we'll say it again. Super speedways are a very different type of track, because whereas you get somewhere like Bristol or Charlotte or Texas, somewhere like that, where you can get to the front and it's all on you to be fast. Whereas here, you get to the front, but you have to make sure that you get to the lead and you don't give the competitors behind you enough chance to work together and get back by you again.
It's an entirely different style of racing. It's a lot more. I don't. It's gonna sound weird, but it actually is a lot more intellectual type racing. Um, there's just so much going on in your head in the super speedway, and you're trying to figure out what everybody around you is doing, gonna do. Whereas on a regular race, like you said, um, am I burning up my tires too fast? Am I faster than the guys behind me? Where are they beating me at? I mean, that's really what you're doing. You're kind of looking at times and lap times and whether somebody's gaining or losing and trying to interpret the feel of your car. Whereas a super speedway, okay, where's my buddy at? What's this guy in front of me? Ooh, that guy's not driving too straight. Is there going to be 3 lines there? Can this guy hold a line? Is this guy going to be safe to run in front of? Which line has the momentum? Should I switch lanes and jump in that other lane while it's moving? Can we get a third lane? So way more going on in your head. It's way more strategic, or I think I called it intellectual, but requires a significant amount of strategy and to just juggle multiple thoughts. So, I can't stress how different this style of racing is.
Yeah, it is definitely a different type. And speaking of that, real fast, we are still under caution. The lights are on, so we at least have another 2 minutes to get around this track, over 2 minutes. So we're going to step away for at least one more commercial break, and we will be right back.
This is a demonstration for the built-in water temperature sensor of W5 CPU water block. There is a water temperature sensor built inside W5 to detect the temperature of the coolant that runs through W5. Here, we're using thermal mode and time-lapse effect to show the temperature change of the system. You can easily see the real-time temperature change on the software screen. W5 is also made with central inlet design, which contributes to higher coolant flow that helps faster heat dispatching to achieve a lower coolant temperature, of which you can see on the software thanks to the water temperature sensor. While W5 shows you the temperature of the coolant that runs through your CPU water block, you can also throw in a Pacific TF1 indicator to monitor the temperature and coolant flow of your whole system.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. The pace car is diving off. Of course, you know what that means. It is time to go racing. And that was close. We're going to go racing with 40 to start lap 44. So about 22 laps to go. It is down to crunch time as the green flag is out. And it is Brian Dorsey that is leading the race right now. So go time has begun here, in my mind anyway. But I think we'll get a little bit closer with 10 laps to go, and they're really going to start ramping it up.
Yeah, not sure, too. Brian Dorsey looks like he might have a little bit of rear end damage there. Maybe that spoiler's kicked up a little bit. Hard to tell, but Brian Dorsey in that one car get a huge jump, too big of a jump. They're not going to like that. Cars are going to be able to get a run on them, drive around them. Maybe Chris Brown could go up and throw a block on that outside line when they get there, but that is not what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and like you said, I think if anybody has any kind of advantage here, it's probably going to be the cars behind, like Scott Masick, David Gainforth, or the one, like you mentioned, as he could jump up easily. But that 9, Brian Dorsey, he is a sitting duck right now, just waiting for these guys to come up. I think what's kind of saving them at the moment is the fact that you see a group of 5 and then a group of 7. Even behind them, they're not really grouped up a whole lot. So that may be saving them a little bit, that they haven't caught them yet.
Yeah, they'll catch them. You're right. They didn't get organized well enough, but they're coming. And Chris Brown needs to jump up that outside line early enough to let his intentions be known, but not early enough that they can just drive right around him. And they will push him to the lead. And Brian Dorsey would be hung out to dry. But, yeah, you know, it's tough maneuver. Timing's going to be everything. You can't do it the last second and cause an accident, but you don't want to give them enough notice to think real hard about going around you either. But you know, so far they're just not getting grouped up behind these guys and getting that run.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
Surely they'll get there, but not happening like we thought it would.
Yeah, definitely not, but they are getting together. That group of 7 has grouped up with that group of 5, and now they're even bigger and stronger, and they're coming too wide. So now that they are too wide, this is going to be where he needs to get up there. But they're going to try to make it 3 wide as the 69 of Dustin Covington. And it looks like Brandon Dorsett, and I'm not sure who else that is behind him, the 10 of Jason Covington, going to make it 3 wide. So they break that group up even more, which I don't think will kill its momentum, but it ain't going to hurt it or help it any.
Well, you got teammates up there running that third line, and that's kind of what you need to make that work. And so far, so good. They're kind of staying in there. Whoever's there at the tail end of that upper line, though, falling back a little bit, making it not work so much. Chris Brown got to make his move now if he's going to make it. Not real sure, that he's going to be able to. That middle line just kind of lost momentum on him. It was about the worst thing that could have happened, but he's going to hang on to second place there. We'll see if that Covington line is able to get around.
And now he's in a, there is no middle lane. It's the bottom and the very top. Now we have him in a very bad spot. He can't jump up one lane to do that. He would have to cross the middle lane and go to the top, and that would probably not end too well. So he's committed now to that bottom lane. He's going to have to stick with it, as I don't know if it's going to do it. Here comes the 69 at the line. Did he get him is the question, and I don't believe he did. Brandon Dorsey will lead that lap.
Yeah, and that's a teammate there on the outside line. So those top 3 on the outside are teammates of the guy leading the race right now. So, again, Covington Motorsports has control of this race, both lines right now. As the laps tick down, if you're somebody not in that Covington group there, you're going to have to look at maybe starting that third line in the middle or trying to do something here, because these guys are back up front and controlling the lines that exist.
Yeah, they are. And if I do recall, last race here for Racecore, Covington Motorsports won as well. So these guys have grown in size, and they have really started to ramp up the teammate working togetherness. And they are doing that. There goes Covington to the lead, and he switches right back. And I'm not sure why Brian Dorsey's name is showing green in the overlays, matching his number there, but must be just a glitch there in the thing. But they're going to try possibly 3 wide, but no, everyone on the middle lane goes to the top with them.
Yeah, 15 to go here. What's surprising to me is how high that outside lane's running. Company Motorsports has that outside lane, but they're really giving a lot of room there. And of course, as I say that, they come down into this turn there and drop down. They're going to get wide here again on the straightaway, but I guess they are closing it up a little bit in the corners, but still, there's an awful lot of room being given there.
It definitely is, and I'm not sure Junior clock out. Not sure which driver Jason you're referring to. I don't see a Junior in here, so
I guess Mikey Jr. and Mikey Jr. is still out there turning laps. That was the car that just went another lap down on the outside. He's off pace, but he's turning laps, trying to grind out a few points.
Yeah, he is, and I wasn't thinking about that, as we don't have him listed as Junior in here, just Mikey Neal, but he is currently back in 23rd, 3 laps down, as you just said, but that outside lane has the momentum it needs. We'll see. The question is, will the 69 and the 5 duck down, or will they wait till the 10 can get out there as well?
I don't know if they're gonna. I think they're just kind of hanging out in that top row and keeping anybody from cycling up on that line. 69 could have ducked down with the 10 or with the 5 a little while ago. So, again, you got teammates on the inside line, teammates on the outside line, and with no third line, nobody's going to get by them. So, by controlling both those lines, you're going to force these guys to get organized in a third line, and that's going to be hard to do here when you're not talking to each other.
Yeah, it definitely will be, as apparently we just had a little connection there going on. Something with going through. Restream does it every once in a while. But we are back, so it won't be too long there. But I'm curious if maybe the 69 might come down. Instead of having 3 and 1, if you could have that 69 come down and potentially make it 2 and 2 on each side, if that would allow you to control that field just a little bit better.
Well, you could, but if you're the 69, you got 3 teammates up top, and you know that there's nobody helping the one down below. So, again, you always want to win the race first. Second, you want to make sure the team does. So if I'm the 69, I got 2 teammates pushing me right behind me, and I got a teammate controlling that inside line. I think I want to be right where that 69 is at. If I'm Dustin Covington, I'm hanging on to that outside row.
Yeah, you definitely want to hang in there and see if they could get a 1, 2, 3, and 4. That would be awesome. They get a 3, especially a podium finish for the entire team. That is a rare feat to do, to get your entire team on a pole or on a podium finish. It's rarely done, but it has been done before. But again, very rare. So this could get very interesting if they could do it here today.
Yeah, now Brian Dorsey's got to be careful. He drifted up a little bit coming off one of those corners, and as high up as that other line is, there's enough room if he drifts up high enough for Chris Brown to get underneath him. And I think Chris Brown's kind of looking at that as we see him drifting up there a little bit more. So far, so good. He hasn't left enough room, but he's real close to leaving enough room to getting forced up into the middle. And freight train there on the bottom by Chris Brown, and then the 00 Scott Masick.
Yeah, definitely. And to answer the question from Jason Frazier, can you upload this video to your channel? That would be a no. You very well can, like it and show it on your channel as a like channel, but yeah, we would prefer you not just upload it to your channel, as it is exclusive here to VRN. But you are more than welcome to like it and put it in there as like a shared video to answer that question. But Dustin Covington out front, he has actually led, I believe, 7 laps so far. I believe that's him. There's 3 Covingtons, and we only can see the last name on the back end here. So we may have to adjust that to a full name, as we have a lot of...
we got the 9 pitting out of the lead. What happened?
I'm not sure. We'll go back in there. He's down the pit road here. We'll take a look, and we'll watch him here to see.
Pit. It looks like it was a planned pit. He pulled down out of the lead down the pit road. So I'm not sure if he didn't get enough fuel the last time by or what, but that is a huge surprise seeing him pit out of the lead with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, and it is going to be 8.3 seconds. So, yeah, that's very interesting to see that he would come down to pit there. So yeah, I'm curious on that myself. That especially he would do it with nobody else coming down with him.
No help. No, it looked like he drove it down. It didn't look like he got forced down and didn't have any help. He's got a whole complement of teammates up there. So I am without explanation for that one. I can't even fathom a guess, but I'm sure there's a reason, and can't wait till we hear it.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I have to address chat a little bit. No, Jason, anytime you share the link or anything like that, that's perfectly fine. We just don't want anyone downloading and re-uploading the race to their own channel. That could take away from the views from this channel, but yeah, if you share the link or anything like that, that is perfectly fine. So yeah, you're perfectly good in that. We'll see. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that 9 to see potentially if anybody else is going to come down to pit road, as we have 10 laps to go. So it almost has to be something that he just didn't have enough fuel.
Yeah, he had that short pit stop. That's how he cycled up front there. So hard to say what was going on there. Oh, we got Dustin Covington going wide, 3 wide outside of his teammate. Gets shuffled all the way to the outside. His teammates in the middle, and everybody else going to cover up that line. So will the Company Motorsports guys come up and try to get him there? Actually, he's able to duck in 4th in line on that outside row behind Brian Jones. But, we talked about him having a chance to come down and cover up that inside row several times. He chose not to. So it looks like another mistake by Covington Motorsports up there.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. You can't make too many of those, or you could give up the lead and potentially lose this race. Mistakes can be so costly. You talk about mistakes on pit road happening all the time, but mistakes on the track can be just as costly as they can be on pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's go time, less than 10 laps to go. It's going to be hard to make those mistakes up there. So, especially when you got your other teammates up front, kind of hard to do something stupid to try to get back up there. But we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, definitely can, and we are still having to address this to Jason Frazier in chat. To anyone in chat, if you want to copy the link at the top of your toolbar or like the video, and you can have it into your liked videos where it still links back to us, that is perfectly fine. But any form of downloading this video via a downloader and uploading it directly to your channel, yes, that is a negative. You can't do that. But you can very well share this video on any social media as long as it links back to the original video here on VRN.
All right, so here we are, Charles. We got 6 laps to go. You got Covington Motorsports on the outside lane. You got the inside lane there. You got Chris Brown. You got the 00. What are we going to do here? Looks like we got a little 3 wide now. We got Covington, I believe it's the 69 of Dustin Covington, coming back there on the inside or the middle row, and actually cycles up to the lead. So what a move there.
Yeah, that was definitely that could be a race-winning move, as we are currently 6 laps to go, going to be 5 to go here in half a lap. So that could be a race-winning move, as it looks like the 10 having some connection issues as well. But it looks like he's going to get it sorted out. But right now, as with any super speedway race, you never know who's going to win, but I would say it's probably going to be somebody in this top 10 right now, assuming we don't see a wreck here between these top 10 drivers, which is very possible with 5 to go right there. And, of course, this is the point of no return if a caution does come out.
Yeah, 5 to go there. Now we've got Covington controlling both lines again. We've got the guys that aren't with Covington a little bit spread out here. Again, if you're the 75 there or the 1, you just about got to get, or the 45, 00. Any of those cars up front, you just about got to get that third line going in order to break up this Covington blockade there. So running out of time to do it. Caution would end this thing. So, yeah, if you're not one of those Covington cars in front of one of those rows, you got to be trying to figure out what you're going to do here.
Yeah, you definitely have got to figure it out, and you've got to do it quick. As right there, 4 to go, as looks like Scott Masick goes up and almost door slams the 45 of Brian Jones, but he does keep it off of him. It is now 4 laps to go. You've got to get to the front and make something happen here. As I would say about 3 to go, if you aren't up front by then, you probably aren't going to do it here. We got I'd say, 8 cars up there that have a chance of winning this race right now.
Yeah, now it looks like Jason Covington's going up there to get a third line going just in case somebody's got an idea here. I think Covington Motorsports is working together brilliantly here to control the front of this race and get their cars up there. These guys are definitely talking, strategizing, and if you're the 1 to 45, the 75, or the 00 right now, it's tough sledding out there.
Yeah, and the question here, we got to figure this out. David Gainford, Justin Starge, Scotty Zerk. We have more cars coming down pit road, so can they make it on fuel here? Is the question. Or are these guys trying to risk it out there to get the win? As we have seen multiple cars now come down pit road.
Well, Chris Brown's one of those guys that only had a 5-second stop. Same with Dustin Covington. So we had some guys that had full fuel stops and full 4-tire stops. But 2 of our leaders up there are 2 guys that basically just took a splash of gas with no tires. So if you're going to take a splash of gas, I got to think you got enough. But I'm with you. All these cars coming down pit road makes me think maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see as these guys are hitting 199 miles an hour.
We got an off-pace car there, the 54 or 51 is not getting out of the way, and he just damaged the 75, going to cause us a wreck up front. We're probably going to have a caution flag come out. Actually, no, the 10 is going to stay off the track, and now he's coming back on. There's our caution flag. So, wow, we had the 51 off-pace. Brandon Young did not get out of the way, split the 2 lines, and they had a run on them, and it was over.
Yeah, and, yeah, I hate to say it, you try not to point fingers, but when you're at a super speedway like this, especially to bring out a caution, it's not going to sit well with these drivers, much less if you're battling with 2 laps to go and it's a race-ending caution. That's not a way to make friends out there on a racetrack.
Yeah, again, you try not to point fingers, but there's no way not to in an instance like this. The 51 should not have been down there, and he just run like in the middle of the 2 lanes. He needed to either get to the apron here at the end of the race or get high. Obviously we're not listening to radio communication, but hard to believe somebody wouldn't have come over the radio and told him that too. So not sure if that was what was going on there, but certainly not the race etiquette that I think most drivers were expecting.
Yeah, and that unfortunately will end it, but so far they're on the final lap here. The white flag is in the air, of course, presented by Northwest Racing Series, as your top 3 are going to be Dustin Covington. I'm pretty certain this is his first race. On top of that, I've seen the other 2 Covingtons, but not Justin Covington, as well as Brandon Dorsett in second and Brian Jones in third place. So I'll have to talk to that Covington and see if it was indeed his first lap. But not the way you definitely want to get a win, but a win is a win.
Yeah, so now we got to think that anybody that didn't have enough gas can at least coast and get around here the end of this lap. So we got to wonder if that didn't save a couple of those guys up front. Certainly it killed a couple of the guys up front. There was a couple of Covington cars that did not fare too well on that. But you got to wonder if it didn't help a couple of those cars up front too.
Yeah, we'll definitely never know if it did or not. But we'll definitely talk to at least a few of them, and we'll find out if it was going to be close or not. But we are going to go through your unofficial race results, and of course we will switch over to your post-race show. Jeff, you want to run through our top 15, and then I will bring us home.
Absolutely. Your winner tonight, the 69 of Dustin Covington. In second place, his teammate, the number 5 of Brandon Dorsett, bringing it home in third, the 45 of Brian L. Jones. In fourth place, the 1 car of Chris Brown. In fifth, the 555 of Butch Fraser. In sixth, the car we just didn't even talk about all night long, Jameer Muhammad in the 2 car, brings it home 6th. Alex Huffman in the 83 brings it home 7th. In 8th place, we got the 10 of Jason Covington. In 9th, the 96 of Craig Covington. Bringing it home 10th, we've got the 75 of Bill Edwards, and the 30 of Mike Rigney brings it home 11th. In 12th place, we got the 101 of David Gain 4th, the 00 of Scott Masick in 13th. Justin Starr in the 99 car brings it home 14th. And rounding out your top 15, the 9 car of Brian Dorsey.
In 16th place, we'll go to Jim Locking. 17th, Scotty Zerk. 19th, should be 18th there, Tony Rice. 19th will be Dan Butler. And 20th will go to Brandon Young, that 51 we were just talking about. 21st will go to Brian Bizzle. 22nd will go to Justin Spear. 23rd, Mikey Neal. 24th, Francois Peltier. And 25th will go to Matthew Ellis. 26th will go to Sterling Smith. 27th, Josh Coley. 28th, Charles Hoffman. 29th, Brett Meservy. And 30th will go to Raymond Yeager. And rounding out the field here in 31st will be the 78 of John Van Varelis. That will do it here for your unofficial race results. We will be right back here in just a few moments with your top 3 interviews. So don't go anywhere. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, here with your post-race show for the Racecore iRacing Drivers World Racing Series. And it was an interesting race, a lot of green flag racing. And in the end, your third place finisher would be the 45 of Brian Jones, who led 1 lap here tonight. So first off, of course, Brian, congrats on third place. And what was this race like out there? As we saw a lot of 3 wide, we saw a lot 2 wide, just a lot of racing actually going on. There were 31 drivers here, so what were your thoughts coming into this race, knowing there were so many drivers?
Well, I kind of started at the back, so I was just worried about keeping my car pretty clean and not getting any incidents, and just be in position at the end of the race to do something.
Well, you definitely ended up doing just that. Had a fantastic run. You can't complain about a third place finish. It's a podium finish. Obviously, you'd like to get the win. The question here, of course, is had that late caution not come out, do you think you could have made that last minute run, those last 2 laps, and potentially got this win here tonight?
Oh, I think there's no question that I would have not won the race or even been in the top 10 if that caution had come out, or had not come out. I was about almost a lap short on fuel. So if we had gone green the whole way to the checkered flag, I would have, I don't know, been almost a lap down. So I was glad for the caution.
Well, that indeed was our next question. We were going to ask everyone what they were like on fuel, but quite short on fuel, so the caution definitely helped you out here. So, again, good job on third place. Obviously, the caution helped you. So we know you got some sponsors and shout-outs. So who would those be for that third place finish?
Yeah, I want to thank Global Building Contractors and Butler Designs, Leo's Coney Island, iRacing Drivers World, and, of course, Jalopnik.com.
Well, then congrats on a third, and that will bring us to our second place finisher here, who we talked to earlier before we went racing. We were hanging out with him in the pits a little bit before we went live, and we asked him if he was going to get the win, and he said he was going to try. You led 3 laps, came up just a little bit short, but the same question, if we hadn't had that caution, did you have enough fuel? And if you did, do you think you could have got by Dustin there and got this win as you came in just short in second place?
Yeah, we was gonna run out short there. We went in on that final pit stop, topped off, but we charged too fast back to the front, so we overdid it coming back through the field. Run about a lap short, half a lap short. So we was just talking back and forth between me and Dustin over here. Going, do we save? Do we just go and pray for the caution? And luckily, the caution gods blessed us with a 1-2 finish.
Well, there you have it. And speaking of that, I believe both of you are from Covington Motorsports. Overall, obviously you get 1-2 for Covington Motorsports, but on the side of just you two getting a 1-2, other than the last few laps there where chaos ensued, there was, we won't mention what happened in that incident there with another driver, but Covington Motorsports pretty much between I think there was 5 or 6 of you, pretty much dominated the front of this field. So give us a little insight. What is it like out there as a driver's side, knowing that you have so many teammates up front and you dominate a race like that?
Well, going into the race, we talked about how we wanted to race it. If we wanted to stay in the back and play it safe and have a car at the end, or get up front and protect both lines and pretty much keep everybody behind us to save your car to have a car at the end. So we chose to go with the second option, and it seemed to pay off for us this time.
Well, it definitely paid off for you here as you get a 1-2 finish. So we know, of course, you probably got some sponsors and shout-outs. So who would those be here for that second place finish?
I want to thank iRacing Drivers World, Global Building Contractors, Leo's Coney Island, Dan Butler's Designs, you guys over at VRM for coming in, putting on a good show, giving us, our TV time that everybody enjoys. Thank Dan and Justin over at Racecore for running the league the way they run it. And then just thank my teammates over at Covington Motorsports. Another 1-2 finish for us.
Oh, definitely. Again, congrats on that second place finish. And bringing us to our race winner here for tonight, that is the 69 of Dustin Covington. Led 16 laps and put it in victory lane here tonight. The most laps led. First question is, we've seen Jason Covington and Craig Covington, but is this your first race? Because I don't recall seeing a third Covington in here till tonight.
I haven't been here much. My work schedule kind of keeps me off during the week, so I figured it was Talladega and help the teammates out, so I'd come out here and put on a show.
Well, you did that indeed. Again, rarely being here to come in and show them how it's done, putting it in victory lane here at Talladega. Again, a 2.65 mile track. There's 172 miles around this place that you had to run. So what was the strategy coming in here? Obviously, you're going to work with your teammates and try to put it in victory lane, but what did you think your odds are getting it into victory lane from the start till closer to the end of this race?
Well, as a coming to motorsports, we do pretty good at these plate tracks about every time we come in here because we can hook up and we stay with each other all race long. So.
Well, you definitely were doing that here tonight, and we've watched that team grow here since the start of this season, and you have absolutely just a ton of fast drivers on that team. So the last question we have for you here is, of course, team related. At any point during this race, especially you get in those last 5 laps, is there a point in this race, towards the end anyway, when it becomes, you're my teammate, but I want to win this race? Or is it strictly all about the team up until the checkered flag waves, and you just want at least one of you to get that win?
I would push a Covington Motorsports car to a win to keep from causing an accident, so it's not win everything.
Well, definitely a good attitude to have. It's about the team, not necessarily about the self. So, that's always a good trait to have on a team. So I'm sure the teammates are glad to hear that and would probably do the same too. But congrats on the win. Again, the laps were spread out throughout everyone, but you did lead the most here with 16, so you get some of those bonus points. But overall, again, just an outstanding race from you here, especially that you're not here all the time. But do you have any sponsors on the car and just anyone out watching you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Justin and Dan for putting the league on and giving them a good place to race. I don't get to race much, but VRN, y'all for putting on a show. I watch until I go to bed most of the time. Dan Butler Designs, iracing Drivers World, and Global Builders Contractors.
All right, well, again, congrats on the win. And that will just about wrap it up for us here tonight, but we want to thank all the sponsors here as well. On the racing side of things, again, they wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dan Butler Designs, Leo's Coney Island, iRacing Drivers World, the presenting sponsor here for tonight's series and race, and of course the Global Building Contractors. And a big shout out to all the sponsors here for 2018 for Virtual Racing Network. Those include Northwest Racing Series, Walls Beard Co., Beard Balm, Ohio IndyCar League, SimSpeedShop.com, and, of course, iBog. Make sure you check out all of these great partners on their social media websites and let them know you heard about it here on Virtual Racing Network. And we'll see you tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. Central Time for the Northwest Xfinity Series. Until then, have a safe night and make sure you have a great holiday weekend coming up this Thursday for Thanksgiving.